Hey guys, this is the last part of the 7-part series in aim training and the different categories of aiming. We've previously already talked about clicking, specifically static and dynamic clicking, about smooth and reactive tracking, and last week was about speed target switching. And this last part is about evasive target switching. So what is evasive target switching? A lot of target switching in general, whether it be speed or evasive target switching, is based on the same principles. Target switching is moving your crosshair quickly between 2 or more targets. It's what makes clips and montages of aimers look really insane because it looks fast and snappy. It's also used in, for example, spray transfers and fast target acquisition. Target switching in general is about a high damage uptime. You're constantly holding your left mouse button while switching between targets. So you have to be incredibly fast, but you also have to be accurate. It combines skills of both clicking and tracking, as I said before in the speed target switching video. And it also requires a good reaction time. The difference between speed target switching and evasive target switching, however, is that in evasive target switching, the targets move more unpredictably and erratic. If you compare speed target switching to smooth tracking, you can compare evasive target switching more to reactive tracking. The way the bots move are nowhere near as extreme as reactive tracking. They are the same kind of scenarios as the dynamic clicking scenarios with evasive bots like Pasu, but then in a target switching scenario where you're constantly holding the left mouse button. Evasive targets generally have a higher time to kill and require a little bit more tracking. They are unpredictable, move erratically, and it utilizes a combination of dynamic clicking, flicking onto targets, and smooth tracking as well. It tests your reading skills a lot more, which is reading the movement of the bots. What are the optimal settings for evasive target switching? The optimal settings are similar to speed target switching. Usually people that play a lot of target switching scenarios have the max FOV of 120 Overwatch FOV and a fast sensitivity between 25 to 40 centimeters per 360. As you already know, I personally always stick to my own sense and my own FOV of 103 Overwatch and 3.5 Overwatch sense on 800 DPI, which is a very slow sensitivity and a low FOV for target switching. But if I can manage to get Nova scores with my stats, then it should show you that you can play whatever you want and feel comfortable with, and still be able to do good in target switching. So let's talk about technique. A lot of the technique that I personally use for evasive target switching is also the technique I use for speed target switching, with a little nuance or difference here and there. First of all, I do fast flicks with my arm or my wrist depending on the distance of the bot, and I micro correct with my wrist or even the fingertips sometimes. This depends on your sensitivity. If you have a low sense, you'll be playing a lot more arm-wrist, and if you have a high sense, you'll be playing a lot more with your wrist and your fingertips. It's important to be smooth, even when you're tracking evasive bots. Especially with evasive bots, it's important that your tracking is on point, otherwise your speed will suffer significantly. Aim for the closest target. What I sometimes do if I see a target that spawns really close to me, but it's very vertical, so it's going to go on the ceiling, I skip that bot until it's in a better position, because it can really catch my aim off if I go for the ones that are touching the ceiling. Accuracy matters a lot in evasive target switching as well. It matters a lot less than in speed target switching. But if you miss a lot of targets, which is easy to do on evasive scenarios because the bots move so erratically, you sacrifice a lot in speed. So I would recommend on evasive target switching, if you're new to it, to go slower a few rounds. Go for the bigger targets who move a little bit slower before moving on to the more advanced scenarios. There's also different types of evasive scenarios. There's a lot of similar scenarios in dynamic clicking that are turned into evasive target switching scenarios. The first example of that would be bounce 180 tracking. It is literally the scenario bounce 180, but instead of clicking, you are tracking the target and target switching to the next one while continuously holding mouse button 1. An extra tip I have for this scenario is to use the same techniques you would use in dynamic clicking while holding left mouse button 1 the whole time. I personally find it, however, that instead of hitting the target while it's at its peak, I find that in the bounce target switching scenarios, it is easiest to track them on their way up. I also try to move to the closest target that comes next, and the targets that kind of follow the same pattern, or the targets that are moving in the same direction or the same arc for a smoother transition. Another type of scenario is the PASU evasive target switching bots. They act the exact same way as the PASU scenarios for dynamic clicking, except right now you're holding left mouse button continuously and the health bar is obviously longer, so you have to track them. What I would say is don't predict them too much, but there is a certain pattern to them, so try to target switch in the direction the bot is already going. Try to be as smooth as possible with your tracking, and don't try to aim too spastically. Aim for clusters that are close together and aim for bots that are moving in the same direction. There's the EVA target switching scenarios. They are kind of a mixture between sky target switching, the speed one, and I would say the movement of the PASU bots. They are smaller dots, smaller targets, and they move erratically, kind of in a 180-degree field around you. You can use the same principles that you use for PASU and sky target switching and combine it. So what are the scenarios that I would recommend? Once again, I will link the spreadsheet of the Voltaic Recommended scenarios for evasive target switching. Besides that, I would recommend playing the scenarios in the KovaaKs or AimLab benchmarks respectively. Start with the ones that are on your own level. You know yourself if you're a novice, intermediate, or advanced player. Do not try to cheat your way by doing the more difficult scenarios, as this may be too difficult for you, and it can build bad habits. For playlists, I actually don't have a set playlist to recommend for evasive target switching, because a lot of the target switching playlists for speed also have evasive target switching scenarios in them. You can make your own playlist with the recommended scenarios that I linked before and that are also in the description, or you can check out in general target switching playlists, which will have both speed and evasive target switching in them. And that was it for the evasive target switching guide, and therefore the end of this series as well. I hope it was really useful. I hope you learned something, whether you are new to aim training or have been aim training for a while. I hope you keep up with the aim training and see the progress that you yourself want. If this was helpful, please leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future. It might not necessarily be about aim training, as I'm currently focusing more on grinding FPS games and making both educational content in FPS games and making highlights of my own gameplay. You can also see me on twitch.tv/Valkie_. The kind of games you can expect me to play in the near future will be Counter-Strike 2. I've played a lot of Valorant before. I also play games like Apex, Overwatch, COD, PUBG. So basically any good FPS game out there right now. Thank you so much for watching this video and watching this series. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions left. or ask them on my Twitch channel. And let me know what you would like to see in the future, or things that you would like to see me make a guide on. I hope you reach all the goals that you've set for yourself in aim training. Good luck, and see you next time.